Live with Greg Olson, Director of the New York State Office for the Aging.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thanks so much for joining us today. My name is Greg Olson, and I'm the Director of the New York State Office for Aging. We are now in late January of 2026, and it's really a perfect time to consider what's in store for your Medicare benefits throughout the remainder of 2026 and to help you in your decision-making process as we go through the rest of the year. Now, look, Medicare is complex. The material that we're going to be talking about today is pretty dense, but we have two amazing experts that are coming back that literally have your back. And what I love about having something that's recorded is something you can share with others, but also something that you can reference in the future, because this does get complicated. We're not going to, pretend that it doesn't. So we'll be talking today about the Medicare enrollment process, affordability, and costs to beneficiaries, as well as coverage basics. We'll also be providing a reminder about assistance that you can apply for to help cover your out-of-pocket costs. Most costs are going up, whether it be food, transportation, utilities, certainly maybe in healthcare as well. So to guide us through this discussion, I'm so pleased and honored to have two great people and experts that are going to be joining me again. We've had them on before. First is Heather Leddick. She's our Health Insurance Information Counseling and Assistance Program Coordinator. It's called the HICAP program. And our friend Frederic Riccardi, who's the CEO of the Medicare Rights Center. So Fred and Heather, welcome back. I'm excited for today's show.
Thank you, Greg.
Thanks for having us, Greg.
So let's just start with some basics. Let's do a quick refresher on terminology that we'll be using on today's show for folks. And I'm going to ask, each of you to complete the following sentence in just a few words. So Heather, we'll start with you.
Yeah.
Original Medicare is what?
So original Medicare is the federal fee-for-service health insurance option. Really what it is Medicare Part A, which covers somebody's hospitalization, Medicare Part B, which covers outpatient services. And for those who operate within that Medicare, that original Medicare, they will go to the doctors and typically have 80% of approved Medicare services covered. And then they would be responsible for a 20% co-insurance or a copay per se. It's important to also note that most folks pay for Medicare Part B, and the cost of that for 2026 is $202.90 is the Part B premium for 2026.
Okay, and that's traditional Medicare. So
Fred,
people know, or I've heard anyway, and many people are enrolled in what's called the Medicare Advantage plan. So Medicare Advantage is what?
Well, Medicare Advantage is a type of private health insurance that offers Medicare benefits to Medicare beneficiaries and typically covers hospital benefits, outpatient benefits like going to the doctor, diagnostic testing, and generally includes prescription drugs. The big difference is with Medicare Advantage, it's offered through a private health insurance company, and the cost can vary and some of the benefits can vary from original Medicare.
Can you briefly describe what Part C is?
Yes, so we often get asked, well, what is Part C? Part C is the same.
I think we're having some technical issues. I'll go ahead and grab it. So Part C is Medicare Advantage. A lot of people will say, A is hospitalization, B, and then they'll call up and they'll say, I need Part C, and Part C is Medicare Advantage.
Okay, I'm hearing Fred fine on my end. Heather, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you okay.
Fred, you can hear me okay?
I can hear you, Greg.
All right, I'm going to flip back to you then, Fred. What's Medicare Part D? What does that cover?
Okay, Medicare Part D, the D stands for drug. That's prescription drugs. Now, you can get your Medicare prescription drug coverage through a standalone private insurance that's just going to cover your drug coverage, or you can get your drug coverage through a Medicare Advantage plan. Greg, I'm going to tell you one thing. Part D is very complicated. There's premiums, there's lists of covered drugs, there's multiple plans that are offered, and every plan has a slightly different list of covered drugs. So looking at those formularies, looking at those drug costs is essential every single year.
We're certainly going to get in later in the program of how both MRC and the HICAP program can help do that, because it's absolutely critical. And, this is fairly self-explanatory, but what is telehealth?
Now, telehealth is a service that's offered to Medicare beneficiaries that they can receive medical services remotely from their home. They can also receive behavioral health services like mental health therapy from their home. Typically, it's provided through an audio-visual communication like a laptop or a cell phone. So in some cases, you can use a telephone for mental health visits. And what's really incredible about this is during the public health emergency, this service got expanded outside of its typical uses. So now people in urban environments and rural communities can receive these benefits from their home. And the one thing I like to remind folks is mental health services provided by telehealth are a permanent Medicare benefit now. So for folks who have to, travel a long way to go see a provider, or maybe they live in an area with very few mental health providers, this is a game changer. I remember speaking with someone in central New York, and there was only one psychologist in the network for one plan. So if someone has access to mental telehealth, they could potentially see many more providers.
About increasing access, the ramifications of HR 1, which is going to pull $1 trillion out of Medicaid, potentially some additional Medicare, reductions over time, having access quicker through a telehealth benefit, whether it be regular healthcare or behavioral healthcare, is going to be really, really important. So now that we've established some of the terminology, traditional Medicare, Medicare Advantage, Medicare Part D, and telehealth, what are some of the important things that listeners need to know about what's changing in Medicare for 2026?
Okay. Greg, I'm glad you mentioned HR 1. I think I just want to address this real quick. There seems to have been, some confusion, and rightfully so, around what is changing with Medicare eligibility and what is not. So essentially what I want to share here is just to reassure people that for the vast majority of people, who's eligible for Medicare is not changing. So who's eligible for Medicare? If someone is a US citizen and they turn 65, or they have a disability that's filed with Social Security after 25 months, they're eligible for Medicare. If someone is a green card holder and has been living in the United States for 5 consecutive years, they're also eligible for Medicare. But there was a significant change in the law. Previously, people who had been working for many years, have contributed Social Security taxes, were eligible for Medicare. The law has changed that. And so over the next 12 months or so, individuals who are lawfully present, that means they have a lawful status, immigrant status here, but don't fall into those first two categories, will no longer be eligible for Medicare. And so us at the Medicare Rights Center, we can help troubleshoot any questions around those issues. The vast majority of people who are eligible for Medicare, that's not changing. But I'd just like to reiterate, US citizens, individuals with green cards and 5 years of consecutive residency are still eligible for Medicare, and the Medicare Rights Center can still help you enroll into Medicare. We can explain your benefits, and we can just kind of cut down on some of this confusion.
Updates for 2026. I think you can talk about the cap on Part D, some other things that people can expect might change in this calendar year.
Yeah, and so that was, and I think Heather will agree, this is some of the best news that we could provide to people. As part of the Inflation Reduction Act that was passed, Congress and the Biden administration had put a cap on what people would have to spend at the pharmacy counter for their prescription drugs. Everyone remembers something that was called the donut hole, and I think you've heard me say this before, but it was not a tasty treat. This was the period of time where people would have to spend several thousands of dollars on their prescription drugs at the pharmacy counter. And that has changed. There's now a cap on those costs. The cap in 2026 is $2,100. And for individuals who struggle to pay that amount, you can spread it over the entire year, over 12 months. We've seen people with chronic conditions, people with cancer, very expensive prescription drugs really benefit from this cap. So that was part of our counseling that we provided this fall, just explaining to people how much their drugs are going to cost, and if it's still unaffordable, what options are out there for people.
The telehealth, Heather, if you could talk about MIPA a little bit, explain what MIPA actually is, and some changes there as well.
Yeah, so under MIPA, Medicare Improvements Patients Provider Act, so our network works primarily on assisting individuals with low-income subsidy programs. So that's screening and education in and around low-income subsidy programs. One of those programs is the Medicare Savings Program, and if someone is eligible for that program, they can get that Medicare Part B premium I mentioned earlier, which is $202.90 for 2026. They can actually get that reimbursed. In addition to getting that reimbursed, they also get assistance with their prescription drug costs and the monthly premium for a prescription drug plan. So in total, that could be over $7,000 annually in savings to the beneficiary. That is huge. So again, you should reach out to HICAP, reach out to the Medicare Rights Center to talk about some of this with a trained certified counselor so that you can determine if you're eligible and apply for those programs.
Yeah, and I really want to underscore that. We are in an affordability crisis all over the place, whether it be transportation, food costs, utility costs. And what Heather just talked about, if you are eligible for MIPA, the Medicare Savings Program, SNAP, and HEAP, which all have pretty similar income limits, you can literally save $11,000 a year just on those three programs alone. So we urge folks to reach out to the HICAP number you just saw, the Medicare Rights Center, which you will see, and see if you're eligible for these things. These are things that your and my taxpayer dollars have paid for over the course of our lifetimes. And if it can help us remain independent, stretch our dollars longer, afford our heat and electricity, afford nutritious food, that's exactly the goal here. So everybody knows about the open enrollment period, right? That starts in the fall. You cannot turn on the television without seeing, very expensive ads running all the time. But that open enrollment period ended in December. What if someone still wants to make a change? Do they have any options?
Absolutely, they do. So as you mentioned, the Medicare open enrollment period runs October 15th to December 7th annually. Very busy time. But if you're somebody who did not make a change during that time, you still have options. One of them I want to talk about is Medicare Advantage open enrollment period, and that's happening now, and that runs through the end of March. So if somebody enrolled in an Advantage plan, maybe during the open enrollment period, now it's January, they're accessing services and they're finding that Medicare Advantage plan's not working for them. Maybe there's a provider or a specialist they see on a regular basis that doesn't accept that plan. They can actually switch to another Medicare Advantage plan right now up until the end of March that enrollment period runs through. In addition to that, we saw a lot of folks who were losing their plan for 2026. And if those individuals fail to make a decision and switch to a plan that they would have coverage for 2026, they actually have a special enrollment period that runs to the end of February. And they can access that special enrollment period with our help to enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan or another plan of their choosing. The last thing I want to mention is that many people go to Medicare.gov's site and they access what's called the Plan Finder tool to help navigate their choices. We do that when we counsel individuals, and beneficiaries do that independently as well, and they access that site. This year for 2026, there was a new feature where folks could check their prescription medications. But in addition, that's always been the case. But in addition, there's a provider directory. So they could actually list all of their providers, primary care specialists, and see if those providers were in network of the plan that they were interested in. If for some reason they then got to the provider in the new year in January here and they found that that provider did not participate, they can actually access a special enrollment period due to that information that was misinformation in the provider directory, and they can enroll again in a new plan for 2026. So the bottom line is that there's options. There's special enrollment periods, many special enrollment periods I did not mention. So the most important takeaway from this is that contact HICAP, contact the Medicare Rights Center if you're finding your plans just not working for you in the new year, and we can provide you some advice on that and some guidance.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying is so important. I think a lot of people, when they get through the open enrollment period, think, well, they're stuck with that until the next year. And what you described is there are several really important options. So if you're not satisfied, again, there's the HICAP program, there's MRC, there's others that can really walk people through this if you're dissatisfied. And the worst thing that happens is you make a phone call and figure out where you are.
Yep.
Fred or Heather, either one of you, I'd say both, because you hear from people and, they give you feedback on what happened during the open enrollment period. What were some of the things that were surprising to you about the kinds of questions that you were being asked by beneficiaries during this period?
Greg, I think what was most surprising to me is I started doing this work in 2006 during the implementation of Medicare Part D, the prescription drug benefit. And this year, I spoke to a number of beneficiaries that really didn't have a grasp or an understanding of traditional Medicare, of original Medicare, and that was an option to use that for their Medicare benefits, and then to explore a supplemental plan like a Medigap, which essentially pays for the Medicare coinsurance, et cetera. That was one big surprise to me. And the other one was, and this was a bit of a doozy, I was one of the advocates that the provider information be included in Medicare's Plan Finder. So I was really excited to use it, and I did use it. But I have to tell you, it was a bit of a doozy. You would use that tool, and to some extent it was helpful, but then you would have to cross-check that information on multiple websites, and sometimes you'd have to pull up PDF documents, and it just was, it was a real wake-up call for me again to realize we're putting a lot of onus on older people to do this by themselves, and that's to echo what you said earlier. If you're dissatisfied, one phone call, put in a call, see where you're at. Maybe there's some assistance. Maybe you can get some help, because it really is super complicated.
Oh, go ahead, Heather.
Yeah, I was just going to say, from my perspective, talking to beneficiaries throughout the open enrollment period, a lot of them were just very anxious. Some of them were, again, facing plan terminations. Some counties we saw that may have had, 15 Medicare Advantage options in the prior year were down to maybe 7 or 5 Medicare Advantage options. So we saw, not as many offerings in certain counties, and folks kind of scrambling and just very anxious. And we do see that, but this year I saw that in a little greater intensity. And when they call us, that's the first thing I always say to folks is, it's okay. You're in good hands. We're going to walk you through this, and we're going to help you figure this out. So if there's one thing, I don't want you to be anxious about it. You reached the right program.
So anecdotal question, the intensity or anxiety people feel when they first make the call to how they feel after they've spoken with you guys.
Well, you know what I was going to tell you, Heather and Greg, one of my other findings was, because I was speaking to folks throughout New York State, is once folks have interacted with their local area agency on aging and they have their contact there, they love them. They tell me about them, they talk about them, they know how busy they are. And that really came through. I remember speaking to one guy in particular, and this happened to be during the shutdown. He was waiting to see if he could apply for a heating benefit.
Oh, I'm dying to hear this story. We just lost Fred. So
yeah.
Fred lost his furnace today, so he's on his phone, and I will apologize if there's any audio difficulty. I've been told that it's on my end, so that's my bad. We'll try to get through this while we're waiting for Fred to come back, because I want to hear the rest of that story, and I really appreciate him shouting out, Heather, you're the folks you work with at the county offices, but always thank the offices for the aging and our partners for the amazing work that we do, because that's the feedback we get literally everywhere, whether it be the HICAP program or, nutrition, case management, transportation. Is you can talk to a human being. They're going to go out of their way to try to help you. If they can't find or aren't able to provide the service, they're going to connect you with somebody that can. And I think in this day and age where everything is automated, it's just so nice to be able to pick up the phone and actually get a human being. So, Heather, we said this already, but I can't stress this enough. Given all these additional options that you just walked through, where can a Medicare beneficiary go to get help? And we'll be right back to you, Fred, because I want to hear the rest of the story.
Yeah.
But Heather?
So where can they go to get help? So HICAP, 1-800-701-0501. That number, once you call that number, you're going to say your county name, and you're going to be routed to your area agency on aging that Fred mentioned. And you're going to be routed to your local HICAP program there at your area agency on aging. And they will be able to assist, set up a counseling session, and help walk you through everything. I do want to mention and give a shout out that we have over 700 counselors working on the program statewide, and we have over 240 volunteers. So we are a large network, and we have a lot of folks that are working on this program and helping individuals on that local basis with that one-on-one personalized counseling.
Counselors that Heather talked about are state certified and trained annually. So 2 questions for you, Fred. And we were just talking about how important it is to know who to call, given all these additional options. So we also want to know how to contact MRC, but then I want to hear the rest of your story. We lost Fred again. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break, see if we can get him back. We're coming up on March. One of the things that we do every March is what's called March for Meals, where we really highlight our nutrition program, home delivered meals, congregate meals, nutrition counseling, nutrition ed. We oversee the largest nutrition program in the country, but we could not do half of what we do in nutrition, but also in the HICAP program and many others without our volunteers. So this is going to be specifically about our nutrition program. But if volunteering for the nutrition program isn't something that is a fit for you, when we get back, Heather can talk to you about how to volunteer for the HICAP program as well, because we could always use more volunteers. And it's a wonderful experience to be able to assist people the way that we were talking about. So take a look at this. And welcome back. Heather, talk a little bit about volunteering for HICAP.
I'd love to. Do we? So volunteering for HICAP, yes, we're always looking for volunteers. We have a wonderful group of volunteers who are dedicated, and many of them were recipients of HICAP counseling themselves, and then kind of said, "Hey, this is something I think I can do. It's in my wheelhouse," and they became trained to do that. We do have a volunteer web submission form on our site, on our NYSOFA site, where folks can navigate there. If you're listening and you think maybe this is something you'd be interested in, there is a form that can be completed, and that comes right to us. That comes right to me. And we take a look at that, and then we connect you with your local HICAP coordinator so that you can match up with them and learn more about what that looks like at your local level and what that volunteer experience would include for you.
Fred, can you hear me? Fred?
Oh.
Alex, can you see? All right, we're having technical difficulties. Fred, can you hear me? No, we can't. I love 2026, right? We're in this technological age and we still run through some problems once in a while. I kind of laugh it off because it's something that you have to expect once in a while. Fred, are you there? All right. We'll try to get him back. Heather, let's talk about connecting with the resources that you need. How do clients find HICAP? And the reason I'm asking this over and over again is because we want to make sure that people can find you. And can you give an example of a person that was helped by a HICAP counselor and what difference that made?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, you can find us by contacting 1-800-701-0501. I know I've said that number, but I want to keep repeating it so that folks know that's how you connect with a local counselor. We have clients that come back to us year after year. We have new clients that are brand new to us. And once they experience the counseling session, they know where to go for the following year during open enrollment, and they know to go to us and come to us throughout the year. This is a year-round program. So if they're experiencing something where they've received a bill they don't understand, or there's a change in their coverage, they do come back to us. I want to talk about, as you mentioned, like what do we see? What happens, right? What common things and what issues can people possibly be navigating? One of the things we do see is during the new year, during January, and how we help is we encounter folks who are going to the pharmacy, going to their provider, but more often than not going to the pharmacy, and they're faced with a very high copay. And Fred talked earlier about that cap with prescription drug coverage. And this year the cap is $2,100, meaning that you're not going to take more than that dollar amount out of pocket to pay for your prescriptions, your copays throughout the year. Now, if somebody goes to the pharmacy in January and they're receiving a very large copay, they might kind of scratch their head a little and say, hey, this doesn't seem right to me. They might question it. And they come back to us, and how we help is we say, yeah, you were right to question that. Why? Because that prescription's not even on your plan's formulary. Okay, so that's one area that we do see very often in the new year, where somebody goes to try to access that coverage and they find out that a prescription is not on the plan's formulary. And what does that mean? That means we can help them ask for a formulary exception, or maybe they need a new prescription drug plan because maybe that drug is not covered by the plan that they're in. And that's one area we do offer assistance in.
You can talk to this. I'm sure you probably can. But have the costs of Medicare changed in 2026?
Of course, the costs for Medicare have changed, meaning that Part B premium I mentioned earlier has increased. And there is, other areas and other costs associated with Medicare. The Part A hospital deductible has increased. The Part B deductible has increased. So yes, all of that information is information we can provide during the counseling session, and it's also available on Medicare's site. And we talk to beneficiaries about that. We educate them about those costs so that when they go to the provider, they do know what to expect. If they see something out of the ordinary, again, they know to come back to us, and we can help provide more information on that for them.
This morning, earlier in the show, we were talking about the difference between traditional Medicare and maybe having a Medigap supplement versus costs for a Medicare Advantage plan. It's probably impossible to say generally, well, it would cost less if you stayed on traditional with a supplement versus Medicare Advantage plan and so on. So I'm sure that's something you guys do as well, right? You can make those, based on where the individual is at that time, you can kind of make those determinations by understanding them a little bit better on which is a better choice for them.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's it right there when you said understanding them better. That's our goal, because we want to know when they're coming to us, what does your health situation look like, right? So if you're somebody who has a chronic illness, you're accessing care on a greater basis, on a higher level, and you're going to the doctors throughout the month, we may talk to that person about a Medigap supplemental plan, because maybe they're going to the provider 5 or 6 times, and by the time all those copays add up, they may be better off with a Medigap supplemental plan. And those are things we can help walk folks through so that they have a better understanding and they can make a better and more informed decision for themselves with their Medicare coverage.
Conversation, or there are all these options and ability to almost diagnose the best thing for people, but they don't know if they don't know. And going back to it's not a done deal when the Medicare open enrollment period ends, that this is, as you said, a 12-month a year program for the reasons that you stated. Let's get into another one, the Medicare Savings Program. What is that, and how can somebody benefit from MSP, Medicare Savings Program?
So again, the Medicare Savings Program is a program that's meant to assist low-income individuals. The premise of that program is that it's going to reimburse that Part B premium, which is $202.90 for 2026. And think about that. If that amount is coming out of someone's Social Security check, and they're low income and they're eligible for the Medicare Savings Program, that's money back in their pocket every month. And to your point, that's money they can spend at the grocery store. That's money that they may need to heat their home. In addition to that, the Medicare Savings Program, when somebody is enrolled in that program, also leads to what is called the Extra Help Program. That program is designed to save folks money on prescriptions. So even though there's a cap of $2,100 for 2026 on what folks would pay in copays for their prescription drug coverage, that cost is even going to be lower for somebody who has extra help, and they're going to see significant savings at the pharmacy level.
And I'm just giving ballpark. I think an individual that would be eligible for MSP roughly would have an income of around $2,300 or less a month. And for couples, it's around $27,000. Is that about right?
Yeah, it's about right. And the Medicare Rights Center does a wonderful job and has information on their site. I know we don't have Fred on, but they're a leader in helping us with the Medicare Savings Program and helping to educate New Yorkers about what that is, what the eligibility is, and how to apply for that program. So I'll give a shout out to Fred's group. I know he's not on, but we work very closely with the Medicare Rights Center on that.
And he's probably chomping at the bit. He's probably watching us now. I'm sure he has some connection issues, but yeah, I definitely want to underscore the partnership and the role that Fred, his team at MRC have been to us at state office, as well as all the high cap programs. So I'm going to ask Alex or Darren if you can track down MRC's phone number and put that in the lower third. We just saw the website for MRC, but they're another resource for you as well. So Heather, if somebody, again, I know you've said this, and I know there's redundancy here. There's a reason that I'm doing that. So somebody might think, and don't take those income levels as gospel.
Right.
If somebody thinks they're close to around those income limits, how does somebody go about reaching you or MRC to help with the application?
So again, to reach us, it's that phone number that I've shared, and I'm sure they'll be able to bring our high cap phone number up on the screen. You can reach out, contact somebody in your local area agency on aging, the high cap program, and they'll be able to help you complete the Medicare Savings Program application. And as you mentioned, if you're close, right, to that income threshold, there's other things that we can discuss that may help qualify somebody. So always have the conversation. One thing I also didn't mention earlier is, or maybe I did, our program is free. We're not charging anybody anything for our program, right? We're providing free, objective information to Medicare beneficiaries. So we should be your first stop. We are a trusted, well-known program, and we can answer many of the questions that you have in and around low-income subsidy programs and Medicare benefits in general.
Through open enrollment, and you see those ads, these are paid brokers to sell you a particular product from that insurance company. whether it meets your needs or not. Where what you and Fred and the High Cap Network does is, you're not paid by an insurance broker. You are state certified, highly trained to be able to compare plans once you know what an individual's needs are, health conditions, and so on, to give them the best advice and guidance on what the best course of action or plan is for them with no strings attached. And that is so very important. Heather, you know about this. I was going to ask Fred about it, but he's not here. But we had talked earlier. There's a change that's going on in New York State with the New York State of Health website regarding people over the age of 65 and MSP. Can you just briefly talk about that?
Yeah, so it's not going to look much different to the user, but on, I'll say, the back end of the system, when someone goes to New York State of Health site, I believe there's a screening tool. And for an individual that is over the age 65 and looking to apply for Medicaid or the Medicare Savings Program, they're going to be redirected to another area of New York State of Health site, and they will be able to complete a Medicare Savings Program application online. Also, there's customer service reps available through New York State of Health. Beneficiary, if they think that they're eligible for the Medicare Savings Program, can contact the customer service line, and someone will be able to help walk them through that and apply for them on their behalf if they do appear to be eligible for the program. That's huge, and that's very important, and that is something that our network is involved with, will continue to be involved with, and will be helping folks to apply for those programs.
Almost was 100%, and hardly anything in life is 100%. But it was around same day approvals for MSP applications. Can you just mention that?
Yeah, absolutely. So when completing a Medicare Savings Program application through that site, whether it be with a customer service representative's help or whether it be independently and the beneficiary is doing it, I believe that we're seeing a 98% success rate, same day approval for those individuals. So that's huge. For counties that I've worked with in the past, sometimes we see Medicare Savings Program applications take a few weeks to process. But now with this new system and this new change, folks are going to be getting that help and getting those savings much quicker, which is very exciting for everybody involved in this work, and including, of course, the beneficiary, because we want to get them the savings as soon as possible.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I mean, when you're talking $7,000 to $8,000 in savings every year, I had a friend tell me that in December, their electric bill was $864, right? And you're seeing that now across the state, which, frankly, for me, I can't imagine having a bill come in like that. But what you're talking about is the immediacy of affordability by applying for these benefits that you're eligible for. So before we get to some audience questions, we're going to take a quick break. It's kind of embarrassing, but 2 weeks ago, the quality producers of our show here tried to surprise me with a mystery guest. We had a program on our proactive AI companion, LEQ, and it challenged me to show off my dance moves, which I'm embarrassed about. Nobody wants to see that kind of thing. But here's a rerun of that video, and you can watch the entire show about LEQ and its benefits on our YouTube channel. Take a look at this.
Hello and welcome to Live with Greg. Full disclosure, I'm not Greg, I'm LEQ, the friendly AI robot companion. But Greg and we've got a lot in common. We're both passionate about improving the lives of older New Yorkers, and we both have some epic dance moves. I know, it's hard to picture. But trust me, wait till you see what Greg can do. Come on out here, Greg, and show everyone.
I apologize. That is not something anybody should see more than once. But But LEQ has really been an amazing partnership with Intuition Robotics. We have about 900 units out in the field and have had this partnership for going on 4 years now. But here's a piece on LEQ featuring an older New Yorker who uses one and considers the unit really irreplaceable. So we'd like you to get a closer look at it from an end user's perspective, the older adults that we're trying to help.
We've heard a lot about the impact AI can have on our daily lives. But what if it could help us feel less lonely? That's the goal of a new high-tech companion dubbed LEQ. While the quirky bot may look like a lamp, LEQ's main purpose is to help brighten the lives of older adults who live alone. Our Maya Blackstone got a special look at how it's helping one man feel less alone.
Sit back and let's enjoy the sights and sounds while we sip on a cappuccino in the Eternal City.
In Beacon, New York, 86-year-old Anthony Nemec says his house felt empty until a robot named LEQ moved in.
I go through all of these pictures. This is a picture of our wedding. It's in 1962. I'm all alone. My wife had passed away 8 years ago. And I've been by myself since. LEQ, say hello to Maya.
That's great, Tony.
LEQ is an AI-powered companion robot designed to fight loneliness and social isolation among older adults.
LEQ has been very good and very helpful to me.
Tell me, what's a typical day like with LEQ?
If I want to speak to somebody, I could speak to it. I could play games with it. LEQ, let's play Mahjong. If it was a person, I would say I can't thank it enough. Saving my sanity.
I love that clip. And, you know, while it was designed to originally combat social isolation and loneliness, there's so many new features and the ability to connect with friends and families, to meet people online, to be in live bingo, brain games, health and wellness, anti-anxiety. Like, it's really been amazing. And, you know, for all of these projects we have, we vet them, we test them, and then we measure their efficacy. And similar to what Heather said about a 98% same-day approval rate, we're in the 90 percentile in all of the metrics for LEQ. So really happy with that partnership. Let's get into some questions from the audience, if we can. What is the average cost of a Medicare plan?
So the average cost of a well, we talked earlier about the cost with original Medicare, and for the most part, that's the Part B premium, and there are other costs associated with original Medicare. The average cost, you know, I'd say with a Medicare Advantage plan, that kind of varies. It's really hard to say because there's some Medicare Advantage plans that are offered to folks for a 0 monthly premium, and that's very enticing to individuals. Then there's Medicare Advantage plans that you can see for much higher. $50, $60, $100 a month. People always say to me, why the difference in premium? And my answer is, well, if you're going to enroll in a 0 monthly premium Medicare Advantage plan, your copays are probably higher as opposed to a plan you're going to pay $80 a month for. So it's really, how do you want to pay for your coverage? You want to pay more upfront with the premium and less in copays, or is the 0 monthly premium more important and then you're comfortable paying that higher copay level? So again, that's kind of some of that individualized information we share with beneficiaries when we counsel them.
So important to reach out to experts like yourselves, because again, that is enticing. Well, I'm not paying anything. Well, you're not paying anything now, but you might be, you know, as the year goes on, and to be able to compare those plans like you guys do so well is critical. Why are there so many ads on TV for Medicare? Well, I think the audience can guess the answer to that, but go ahead.
Yeah, why are there so many ads? Yeah, I wish there were less, right? Because they can be confusing for folks. You know, plans are trying to market their product. Companies are trying to market their product. So they run these ads on television. Folks who are sitting home at their TV, homebound individuals during the Medicare open enrollment period are watching these commercials and watching these ads. They're contacting the number, and sometimes it's not the best option for them. The product that's marketed, maybe it doesn't work for them. Maybe their providers don't participate. Maybe their medications aren't on the formulary. That again is why it's important to contact us. Our number's on the screen. Again, free, objective information. We're not selling you anything. We're laying out all your options that are available in your area. That's the other important thing to mention. Medicare Advantage plans are not like standardized across the state. It's based on where you live and where you reside. And that's why it's important to connect with someone local who can give you that information.
What you always say, don't call the number on your screen.
Call the number.
I'll ask Alex to put the number back up. Call that number for exactly that reason. You're marketing to make money, and it may not always be in your best interest. We are selling objectivity and choice and legitimate information that's going to work the best for you. What's the difference between Medicare and Medicaid? And I think this is really important because a lot of people really don't know.
So Medicare is the federal program. Medicare is always going to be primary payer as well. I like to say that because it's always going to be when you go to the doctor, that's the first thing you're going to give that provider is your Medicare card, your red, white, and blue Medicare card. Medicaid is the state Medicaid program. So for individuals who have Medicaid, lower income individuals, they definitely could have both, right? Medicare pays primary, Medicaid pays secondary. Some of those individuals choose to enroll in what we call a dual eligible plan, a dual eligible special needs plan. That type of plan is specific to somebody who, again, has Medicare and full Medicaid benefits. I know that's a lot of information. And again, there's the number on the screen. Why do we post that again? Is because this is complex. This is difficult to understand whether you're even could be eligible for Medicaid. So please give us a call and let us help you walk through some of those options.
Yeah, and I think that's a great distinction. And just to go a little broader, you know, Medicare is traditionally thought as health insurance. It will provide coverage in rehab and then shortly thereafter in the home. Medicaid also provides health care, as you talked about. But one of the other things that Medicaid does is it is the primary financer of long-term care. So that could be nursing home care in the community, personal care aides. Medicare does not do that. They do that short term for a rehab stint. So those are also two additional differences. So I want to thank Heather for bearing with us here. We lost Fred. Sorry about that, Fred, but I'm sure we'll have both of you guys back on. Heather is our State Health Information Insurance Counseling and Assistance Program Coordinator, HICAP. Fred is the CEO of the Medicare Rights Center. We're looking also forward to our next show. You know, this was all about not only the changes in Medicare and what you can expect, but it's really talking about affordability, which is so important right now and which is part of Governor Hochul's main agenda. Next week is going to be very similar. We're going to be joined by our friend Frank Melia to talk about home equity conversion mortgages. You may remember them as reverse mortgages and be afraid of them. And I don't blame you, but things have changed over time. There's a lot of new federal protections in home equity conversion mortgages. And if you talk about home equity, again, as costs are going up all across the board, why not consider using the equity in your home to stay in your home? And that's what we're going to talk about next week. So as always, thank you for joining us today. Please share this with your friends. It's complicated, but there's so many options that you have to get this level of expertise from people like Heather and Fred and the folks that work with us on this, because it's so important and it can be very complex. And as always, we would never be able to have shows like this without an amazing communications team. So I want to thank Alex, Darren, and Roger always for their support behind the scenes and for making this show as great as it is. I hope everybody stays warm. It's cold out, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks on February 12th.
Live with Greg is a production of the New York State Office for the Aging Communications Bureau. Please join us next time.